This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The show is cruising. I can't believe we're already in the second hour of the program as we welcome you back to Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. If you missed any of the prior hour, we had a really good breakdown of both the college basketball slate today and lots of college football with the bowl games getting underway today, tomorrow, CFP beginning on Friday with Adam Burke. And you can always download Money Moves wherever you get your podcast each and every day. Listen on your own time. Real quickly, though, we did get some news in the commercial break.
We do have a little bit of news from South Beach. Quote, everything is on the table. That is what Mike McDaniel said this afternoon when asked about the quarterback position and whether a change would be made. So Tua Tagovailoa's life as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, potentially on life support. Nothing confirmed yet. But it goes back to what we opened up with, and what I had said was I'm pretty sure he was asked about that and gave a non-committal answer. Here we have, again, a non-committal answer in terms of everything being on the table for the Miami Dolphins when it comes to their quarterback situation at media availability today. A reminder, the quarterback roster, in no particular order, Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers are on the depth chart for the Miami Dolphins. My vote would be Quinn Ewers, but that's just me.
Just see what you got.
I mean,
that's like your favorite phrase, I feel like.
But don't you have to?
Truly.
I mean, isn't it like the whole concept is you're trying to build rosters, all this sort of things. Like, we kind of know what Zach Wilson is. Don't you want to see what Quinn Ewers is?
I think that's fair. Yeah. And that also just re-cements part of the conversation we had coming out of Monday Night Football, too, about if you woke up this morning and did not watch yesterday's game, and you just pulled up the box score and saw Tua 22-28, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, you would think he had a pretty good day. He had like 75 yards going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that it was all garbage time. They couldn't do anything all game long. Even the final score, 28-15, is not nearly as indicative of what this game was. It was 28-3. It's just I don't blame the reporters for asking the question. I don't blame Mike McDaniel for answering it the way that he did. And I thought you made a really good point earlier when asking about the future of the Miami Dolphins beyond this year and who was more likely to be a part of the team, McDaniel or Tua. And it feels like it would be McDaniel of the two, that Tua's Miami Dolphins career is dwindling.
We saw this open on Sunday at Miami -1.5, post Monday Night Football, and within the last couple of minutes, last hour, we've seen this get up to Cincinnati -2.5 on the road against the Dolphins. So we have, on one hand, a quarterback that has been vocal about maybe his lack of joy in playing the sport.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you could have Quinn Ewers.
And we did learn yesterday, Zach Taylor said that Joe Burrow is going to play the remainder of the season. Is this a stay away for you then, or what's your feeling initially when it comes to that line?
Initial thought, I mean, I got burned with it, but I've used Cincinnati in every game that they have played since Joe Burrow's come back. You're 2-1 in the 3 games that he's played against the spread. I know that the Ravens game was somewhat troubling in terms of the way that they performed, but kind of tempting to not just try that one more time, get back on the train and see if we don't derail this time around with Cincinnati.
And should have T. Higgins back too, right?
You know?
So like at least a little bump for the offense.
And as we saw, and we got a little bit of proof just last night, as we had discussed in our preview of the game yesterday, what do you know about Miami's defense? They haven't played anybody. They play not a corpse on offense, and all of a sudden they look like a team that has some issues defensively. And if you do have the full complement of weapons, the holy trio of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, that I think is going to be very difficult for the Miami Dolphins to deal with, especially on the flip side, in a game like this where you're going to be forced to try to keep up essentially with maybe a backup, whoever it is. That's probably a tough spot to be in.
The Bengals, coming out of, as you said, tough performance, no secret, against the Ravens. They're shut out. Their team total, though, is 26.5. And for an offense that was clicking at such a high rate the last couple weeks, could that be worth a look potentially in this spot? Because I don't know if I love the game total over 50.5, although I know the Bengals' shortcomings defensively. But if they're making a change at quarterback potentially on Miami's side, they really struggled to do anything offensively.
Team total, total touchdowns, lay a price on over total touchdowns.
Something like that.
I think that maybe you could look in that direction. I mean, look, both teams are eliminated. So when you get into these games from a motivation standpoint, you don't really know what you're going to see. But at the same time, I think the fact that you get the announcement from Cincinnati that Burrow's going to be available moving forward, one, the questions were being asked, but two, there's clearly a desire. Burrow even said it when he came back around, was it the first or the second week? when they asked him essentially why are you coming back when your team's almost eliminated, and he gave some long, eloquent answer about playing the game and all those sort of things. Yeah. So I think you're going to get a perfectly motivated group.
You're paid a lot of money to come out here and play football. Let's get into a little NBA. We do have the NBA Cup Championship tonight from T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. The Knicks and Spurs going head-to-head. The Spurs get Victor Wembanyama back, and they end up beating the OKC Thunder, who looked untouchable in the semifinal. What stands out to you in this game with the Knicks sitting a short favorite? We have seen a lot of movement on the total here. Open 227.5, now as high as 234.5.
Yeah, you do wonder. So let's go back to Saturday where the Spurs play the Thunder and they beat them. You play in a neutral court setting against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and on the surface, you have a really good day. You win 111-109. You hold them to an offensive rating of 102.8. But buried in all of that, which should be pointed out, is the Thunder have one of their worst shooting nights of the season. Mm-hmm. They go 9 of 37, shoot 24.3% from beyond the arc. They end up losing the game by a single possession. And you do wonder how much you attribute the Spurs victory to some sort of variance. I mean, in basketball, if you're going to shoot a three and I'm coming to contest, the second that leaves your very strong hands, it's up to God and whatever else when that shot goes down. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do that much as a defender along the perimeter to really stop you on a contested three. The whole point here being is that maybe the Spurs were were somewhat lucky on the shooting variance for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the whole point here being is, do I want to upgrade them that much because on a neutral in Las Vegas, in an arena in which the Thunder didn't really play before, they had a bad shooting night and lost a game by 2? This is, I think, kind of a short number. New York, if you look at the way they've played, these last 10 games, Stormy, they've been brilliant. You're talking about a 9-1 record. They've been covering these games at a really high clip. The second best offense in the NBA over that stretch and even longer in that stretch as well. They're covering by about 7.5 points per game. They've been really good. And I think initially it's somewhat tempting to go, Wemby's back, Spurs beat the Thunder, this team's great. But when you just see the market saying, yeah, we're just asking the Knicks to win by a possession, essentially, that seems like an easy ask for me. And maybe it's almost too easy. But I believe that this number maybe should be on a neutral, a little bit higher than what the Knicks are at. So I thought my Knicks minus 2.5 was a play.
Okay. Did you have any gut feeling on that movement of the total and where it's going?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the total was somewhat low, but
I said it opened 227.5. And has come up to, now you see at DraftKings 233.5, but as high as 234.5 in the market.
The Knicks have been an over team. I mean, their quarterfinal game against the Orlando Magic, there was 252 points scored. We mentioned their ability to score, the offense. They didn't seem to be bothered by the neutral court setting against Orlando, a relatively good defensive team. Offensive rating of 126, effective field goal percentage 64.9%. Getting another game in this arena is also going to help. You've played one already, so now you're going to play again. So just we'll call it the shock, if you will, of playing on a neutral court that you haven't played on before kind of subsides. You get used to the shooting backdrops and everything like that. So I can understand why maybe the market would pump this up, especially if you think the Knicks are the side, which I do. So I think it makes sense that you're going to push this up over the total.
Okay, this next thing for you, it isn't particularly betting related, but an NBA curiosity I have. We keep seeing some reports coming out with the fallout of the Chris Paul divorce from your beloved Los Angeles Clippers, and the story just keeps getting more and more strange, I'll put it. So what have you kind of unpacked from the most recent report?
So I haven't read Ramona Shelburne's full piece. You and I were actually bonding over the fact that we both enjoy those full-on features of just the chaos behind some of these teams when they fall apart.
It's the best reality TV. Sometimes what we have in sports from the fallout is the perfect way to put it.
It's the last bit of journalism we have. So we get a little bit more from Ramona Shelburne. First off, he actually tried to get Brooke Lopez to kind of stick up for him in a team meeting. He was told that he was going to be let go by Frank and Lawrence Frank, and he tried to bring in Brooke Lopez as some sort of character witness. I'm not that bad. These guys like me. What do you give me? You're going to let me go? But part of the report that was hilarious, that Ramona Shelburne reported that apparently the tension between Chris Paul and the Clippers started after he quickly stood out as a leader of the second unit, which, quote, routinely beat the starters in practice.
Stop.
The team envisioned Paul's role as an end-of-the-bench veteran leader who needed little maintenance, sources said. Quote, we were kicking their ass, forward John Collins recently told ESPN. Every day we were kicking the starters' ass. So they got mad, apparently, that he was just doing so well with the second unit. Interestingly enough, Shelburne reported that Leonard's actually one of the guys that doesn't want him to go.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're getting a quote from Collins, or the fact that there's a lot of these guys, Lopez, Leonard, that are kind of being named around, hey, we don't want this to happen, seems like it's from somewhere else. And then I don't know if you saw, did you see the video of Ty Lue at practice from like a week ago or so? I'll have to show you the video. A lot of people tried to say that this is just how Ty Lue is, but a lot of expletives and a lot of trash talking to Chris Paul, who was already out of the building.
But that's absolutely wild to me to hear some of this stuff coming out about a player who you bring in because of the veteran presence and leadership quality he has to be that support piece. He shows those qualities and is actually performing above what his age would indicate he could do. And that's a problem for you as a coach or as a member of the leadership portion of this organization.
Yep.
That's wild.
I would agree with you.
Make it make sense.
I would agree.
And this is your team who is 6-20 right now on the season. Pull up the schedule and just look at the sea of red you see in the loss column.
Well, and as I told you, last night was a very entertaining night in the NBA. We had a really good game between the Rockets and the Nuggets. We had a good contest between the Pistons and the Celtics. And buried in there was the Memphis Grizzlies going out to L.A. and beating them down 121-103. And off the bench, Cam Spencer had 27 points on 7 of 10 shooting, had hit 3 straight threes at one point, and then told the bench, screaming at the Clippers, get him the F off me.
Get him off me!
Because he couldn't be guarded.
So good.
It's not going well for the Los Angeles Clippers.
And we'll talk a little bit more basketball on the back end of this when we come back from break, because you mentioned the overtime contest yesterday between the Nuggets and Rockets. Got some interesting sound coming out of that one as well from Ime Udoka. And reminder, Prophet X, everybody, if you haven't checked him out before, #1 sports prediction market right now, launching the 7 Days of Prophet Xmas giveaway. You can download Prophet X, use the promo code VSiN to get started. Every $50 in qualifying plays earns you entries to the CFP first round.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Rolling along here, talking all things NBA Cup. Just last segment had a breakdown of the NBA Cup championship that is coming up tonight from Las Vegas, but lots of news and notes coming out of yesterday's results and looking ahead to the rest of the week in the NBA. Most notably, a huge win for the Denver Nuggets yesterday in overtime over the Rockets. Nikola Jokic, Alperen Şengün, both going off in that one, but Denver gets the better of them and led to some interesting comments post-game as well.
Yeah, battle of the bigs yesterday, but ultimately overshadowed by some officiating shenanigans. Near the end of regulation, Amen Thompson called for a foul. Tim Hardaway Jr. comes to the top of the key, and look, their legs get tangled up, and he trips. He's called for a foul. It's a foul, and they have to eventually get to overtime where they lose the game. But outside of that one moment, Ime Udoka was not particularly happy with what he saw in that game, and here's his very level-headed comments about the officiating last night.
Just in general, I think it's poorly officiated game I've seen in a long time. Two have no business being out there, and the crew chief is acting starstruck. So you're seeing all kind of inconsistent calls, and I'm sure we should have got a few more texts.
What do you say to your team when a game is being called the way that it was tonight?
Keep being who we are. We're not going to adjust to poor officials. So we're going to do what we do, and hopefully they can adjust and call it the right way.
Most poorly officiated game he's seen in a long time, and the crew chief was acting starstruck.
Alperen Şengün about getting the same calls that Jokic does. Quote, no, I don't know. He's got 3. He's a 3-time MVP. I'm sure he wasn't getting the calls when he was my age, too. Eventually, I'll get there. He did work all this way to come here. I don't know what that really means, but apparently your status, I guess to an extent, gets you some calls in the NBA. Look, there are some, in any game in the NBA and in basketball in general, there's going to be some calls that you wonder about. I think what really matters here in the big picture, the Houston Rockets are very quietly now 0-2 against the Houston Rockets. They meet again on Saturday. But for anybody who would like to say, like, it's December, these games don't matter. No, like, these are two teams that are going to be, we would assume, 2-3 in whatever order in the Western Conference. And so to be 2 in the hole already, for the Houston Rockets against the Denver Nuggets, not particularly great spot to be in. So They get to play one more time, but these have been really high level and good games. The fact that the Nuggets were able to overcome Houston at home, despite the fact that you're still missing some pretty big pieces in Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon, it's a really big win for them. And Jokic again last night, incredible. 39 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 13 to 27 from the floor, 5 and 9 from deep. He's been playing well, and Şengün had 33, 10 and 10. So, look, both of these teams are very good, but for Houston, tough loss considering that this is a team that you want to come to your building when you get there in the postseason. Now you got to make up for it somehow.
Jokic, second shot on the board behind only SGA for MVP. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plus 125, Jokic plus 170. And I just thought this was so fascinating. We know he's a triple-double machine, but 176 now for his career, an NBA best 12 this season. He is 5 shy of tying Oscar Robertson for the second most in NBA history now already.
Best, one could argue.
Crazy.
Wembanyama would not, but one could argue that he is the best player in the league.
Speaking of Wemby, you made the comment yesterday, though, that the Spurs, especially thinking about the way that they stayed above water in his absence, going 9-3 in the 12 games he wasn't available, they could be an intriguing prospect as you get deeper in the season. Is that a team that you believe in? Let's say they do get to the playoffs, that you think, hey, they can win a series?
Oh, in a series, yeah. Like, it depends on who they get, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does seem that I think they'll be in contention for that 4 seed. You know, it seems like at this point right now, 1, 2, 3 is going to very likely be Oklahoma City, Denver, and Houston. Maybe in that order. That seems like the likely order at this point right now. Again, we'll see if that's the case. But either way, some version of those 3 should be your top 3 seeds. So then the question becomes, who's going to get that final spot for a home court in the first round? And I think the San Antonio is going to be up there. I know the Lakers are high up in the standings as well.
That's what I was going to ask. The Lakers are above them on the odds board.
Yes, they are, and rightfully so. They've been winning. We should point out, like we talked about quite a bit, the Lakers are a team that is, I believe they are still, I'll double-check this, still undefeated in clutch games, have been winning despite a very slight point differential, generally signs of a team that is playing above their skis. Some of the win differential metrics would paint them as a team that is not getting lucky, but definitely getting the right side of the coin flip as you move in a lot of these tight contests. So that's going to be something that's definitely worth looking at here. Yes, the Lakers 9-0 still in clutch games. But having said all of that, like when everything shakes out, I do think San Antonio could be a team that could be a 4 seed. And who knows? I mean, maybe it's Spurs-Lakers, a 4-5 matchup. They could win that. Moving forward, right, once you get into the semis, if you're the 4 seed, more than likely, you're talking about a second round against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think you want to be there if you're San Antonio. But to your overall question, yes, like they could win a series, absolutely. Mitch brought this up on Pod to the Futures. I think it's 65-1 just to get Spurs Nuggets Western Conference Finals. Like that's just it. Those are your participants. Or in the range of 15-1 on Thunder Spurs as a Western Conference Finals, if you wanted to attack it in some different way. Because we were discussing this the other day. I find it hard to really full-throatedly go, I'm betting this team to win the Western Conference, considering the Thunder are there.
Sure.
And at some
they
point, you probably have to get through them.
Very good.
Yeah. But I'd rather invest in either Eastern Conference or find some unique ways to look at that Western Conference.
That is a great reminder, though, as you discuss kind of the futures board. You and Mitch do a great job each and every week. Pod to the Futures, looking at different angles in every sport, seeing where you can find some potential value on the board that maybe other people aren't talking about. So you can get Pod to the Futures wherever you get your podcast. Same thing with Money Moves. As soon as we're done each and every day, that thing's uploaded right away so you can listen on your own time. Another result I want to talk to you about, though, speaking of clutch performances, Cade Cunningham pretty clutch yesterday in the Pistons win over the Celtics, overcoming a 12-point deficit to get the win on Monday night. And this is now the 6th comeback this season for Detroit of 12 points or more, tied for the most by any team this year. Is that sustainable? How do you view this for Detroit?
I mean, coming back in these games is just like we're talking about the Lakers, not sustainable. But, dude, this team's so good. Their bench is great. I noted in the rundown here, they outscored them 47-14, the two benches. Their bench outscored Boston's. It was absolutely fantastic. I don't know, man. This team's just got, some juice to it. I'm sure you guys didn't watch it, but I sent you guys Javonte Green's steal and dunk
I
last.
watched it. Baller.
How nice was that?
Baller.
It was this team just got this verb to it that they're really confident. They understand what's going on. You mentioned Cunningham, the efficiency, the ability to operate in the clutch. It's really important. I think they do have some questions. down the stretch when it was getting a little tight, you have to ask, hey, are we going to go like a little defensive oriented? Do we go offense? Because they don't really have a ton of balance in terms of guys who can do it both ways for them. So you have to ask if you're going to sacrifice some spacing to close out some of these games in order to play better defensively. But still, like, this team's great. And they are rightfully so going to be the 1 seed, I think, in the Eastern Conference. Maybe the Knicks push past them. They're not that far behind, but I think they're legitimate in an Eastern Conference that doesn't really look that strong. Pistons got a lot working for them, and they still have some wiggle room to go and get somebody before the trade deadline. And by the way, the reason why we also want to bring this game up, so we talked about last week that hot run that Boston was on. Mm-hmm. They had won 10 out of 12. They had covered, I think, all 10 of those games that they had won. Boston's a very well-coached team, and I think that Joe Mazzulla's done an awesome job. But they are a good example of just the ebbs and flows of a season and whatnot. Last 2 games, which they have lost, they've shot a combined 24 of 88 from deep. That's 27%.
Yeah.
During the stretch that they were red hot, they were shooting over like 42% and like 45% on above the break threes. They're going to be a team that kind of like wanes with whether or not, I think it waxes and wanes with how they shoot. But it's just a good example of the shooting wasn't on unless Jaylen Brown or Derek White was shooting the ball for him yesterday.
Okay, I know we usually give the NHL a lot of grief for their scheduling. Mm-hmm. What's the NBA doing this week where you have the NBA Cup game today and then just 2 games tomorrow? That's all you got?
And players are allegedly complaining about it. I mean,
oh, really?
Because the beginning portion, I keep asking you guys about this for hockey because the schedule's kind of compacted because of what's going on with the Olympics.
Right.
But the putting the NBA Cup and the way they've scheduled it in there, it's kind of pushed everything out and compacted the front end where you saw a lot of back-to-backs, a lot of 3-game and 4 nights, and a lot of these bad rest situations that I think the players are being pretty vocal about it through the media. So we'll see exactly if there is some changes maybe made next year.
Early numbers for tomorrow, we got the Cavs at Bulls, Chicago getting 5.5 at home, total 242.5 there. And then the Grizzlies and Timberwolves, that second game, although they are at the same time, both at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Timberwolves laying 8.5 points, total 234.5 in that one. Mm-hmm. Okay, also a reminder, everybody, the Average Joe contest rolls on, sponsored by Edge Boost. Kickoff Q4 this week. Great time to jump in. Each and every week, here's what you need to do. You make 7 picks, NFL or college, so bowl season obviously rolls on. There's your opportunity for your shot at $500 or $1,000 if you already have an Edge Boost account. And with the new quarter underway, you're also playing for a handful of other really cool prizes. Airfare for 2 out to Las Vegas. Come pay us a visit. Get a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino where we're broadcasting from. And get this, you really want to have some fun. You can join us as an in-studio guest appearance on a VSiN show. It's free to play. You can enter anytime. VSiN.com/Joe. Again, that's VSIN.com/Joe. We need to step aside, take a quick time out here, but we're going to continue the talk on the hardwood as Greg Hoops Peterson joins us next. We're going to get into a little college basketball, though. Tons of teams in action, a lot in the top 25, including one top 25 on top 25 potential crime coming up with Louisville and Tennessee, but a handful of games where Greg's numbers felt like there were an advantage. Excited to have that conversation coming up next. Stay with us right here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
College basketball to get into here as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. Stormy Buonantony with you as we head out to the Progressive guest line and our good buddy Greg Hoops Peterson, who joins us now. VSiN.com writer, of course, posts daily college basketball lines in spreadsheet form, so you can keep up to date where Greg sees his perceived advantages on games throughout each and every day. Greg, what's going on? How are you today?
I'm doing great. We had ourselves a day game as well with the Drexel-Howard game. Yep. So that always makes me happy when you get college basketball all day, and always glad to be talking about it with you guys. Thank you.
Yes, always nice to get it going early. And, of course, we have a ton of games that we're going to get to on the card today. But the big one, at least of the day, is the ranked-on-ranked matchup we have here with Louisville and Tennessee. And we have seen some line movement on this one. Tennessee now out to a 2.5-point favorite after opening as a slight home dog as the lower, or I guess higher ranked team, depending on the way you want to see it. They're the number 20 ranked team compared to Louisville at 11. Total 157.5. What stood out to you here?
I did make Louisville the favorite, so I very much agreed with the opening line. Now that you're able to get them as an underdog, I do like them outright on the money line. For Tennessee, they just have been too sloppy with the ball. They had Zakai Ziegler for so long as their point guard. It felt like he was one of the Van Wilders of college basketball. Now he's gone, and the changeover to Jacoby Gillespie has just been a little bit wobbly. Now it is going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee. That is a tough place to play, but for Louisville, everyone talks about the great offense. They've also been a top 30 defense in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, doing a solid job on the glass with just shooters upon shooters. Ryan Conwell leading the way. And I know that everyone talks about Mikael Brown. He's actually shooting less than 30% from three right now. You figure that that's going to be seeing a boost as well. Now, I do like the under as well because I did talk about Louisville, the fact that they've been able to play some solid defense, and we know this about Tennessee. They're always going to be a team that locks you down defensively, back at the top 25 in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis, and year in and year out, one of the best teams at guarding the three-point line in all of college basketball. So I like Louisville here on the money line, and with this total in the high 150s, I do like that under as well.
Greg, over the weekend, we saw UConn beat Texas, held them at arm's length pretty much the entire time, but didn't really come close to covering the number. Is the market too high on the Huskies, who are playing pretty well? They're down to 14.5-point favorites, totals 145.5 at home against Butler.
And I still think that you got some value here on Butler. I took this overnight when this was closer to 15.5. Still like it at 14.5. With Butler, they're just doing a great job of generating second chances. They have been a top 25 team in terms of percentage of their missed shots that result in an offensive rebound. And Michael Ajayi, who just didn't really pan out at Gonzaga last year, but was really good over at Pepperdine 2 seasons ago, he's really been able to give this team a good boost. And for Butler, they have been able to be road warriors in that in a road/neutral court environment, they're shooting 42.9% from three. Now, you go up against the UConn defense, and obviously he's one of the better ones in all of college basketball, but Butler's really pushing pace as well. Top 35 team in terms of total possessions per game. They're going to give up a few second and third chances, and with Terrace Reed back, the full back being 100% for UConn, they should be able to get those second and third chances. UConn is honestly fast, ranking about 300th in terms of total possessions per game, but still very efficient on the offensive and defensive side of things. But I feel like a lot of people slept upon Butler coming back into the season. You've got Finley Bizak, who's been able to do a solid job for this team, and I feel like Butler's a little bit of an undervalued team right now. So with this total down to 145.5, I think that Butler puts up some points. I like the points, and I do like that over.
Greg Peterson, VSiN host, writer, host of the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast. You can follow him at GUnit on social media as well. And one of the games that was in your article today, I was looking at, Marist at Georgia Tech. You had a 9-point advantage on the total in this game based on your numbers. Can you tell people why you like the under so much here?
This Marist team is one of the best mid-major defenses in all of college basketball. 8th in the country in terms of points allowed on a per-possession basis. They actually lost their top scorer from a season ago, Josh Passarelli, who's right now tearing it up over at Colorado State. But this Marist team, they block you down from 2-point range and 3-point range. Top 40 team in terms of both. And this Georgia Tech team has been sloppy with the ball. Georgia Tech is hovering right around about 280th in terms of their possessions that end in a turnover, outside the top 250 in terms of points scored on a per-possession basis. And one of their main scorers, Bane and Ndongo, did not play in their previous game that Georgia Tech played. Now, we're going to see if he's going to be able to go in this one. Even if he does go, because we haven't been seeing a lot of updates here, he's probably not going to be 100%. That leads me also to the points with Marist in this ordeal as well. Marist just doing a nice job down low. A pedestrian three-point shooting team. Not great, not terrible. They themselves have a few too many turnovers, but these are two teams based around defense. I know that Georgia Tech is in the top 100 in terms of total possessions per game. Warped stat, though, with that double overtime game that we saw against Maryland Eastern Shore to begin the season. And with Georgia Tech, I do think that there's going to be too much sloppiness along with injury for them to be able to cover this number. So I think that you get a low-scoring slog of a game. Marist, by the way, a top 25 team in terms of opponents' two-point shooting percentage each of the last 2 years before this year as well. So it's a proven defense. I like the under, and I like those points with Marist.
All right, let's talk about Dayton. This is a pretty interesting game. These are two ships passing in the night right now. Florida State can't buy a win. Dayton looks pretty good. Pushed BYU back in Florida when they were playing out there. They're up to a 7-point favorite at multiple spots, Greg. Totals 161.5 or 162. What do you like here?
I do like Florida State with the points, and Dayton has one big kryptonite, giving up the three ball. They're allowing teams to shoot over 38% from three. 53.5% of Florida State's field goal attempts come from three-point range. That's a top 8 percentage in all of college basketball. Now, I do also like the under, despite the fact that Florida State takes a bunch of threes, and despite the fact that Florida State is actually playing at warp speed. Florida State, a top 10 team in the country in terms of total possessions per game, but there's going to be a lot of dead possessions in this game. Dayton is right now third in the country in terms of turnovers forced on a per possession basis. Florida State is sixth. Both of these teams do a really good job of taking the ball away. Both of these teams have been solid, but not amazing at taking in terms of taking care of the ball. So I do think that leads to a lot of dead possessions in this game, a lot of turnovers, but I think that the overall three-point shooting of Florida State going to be able to keep them in there. Dayton has a little bit of size with something like Emil Latang, who's saying 7'1", but still not necessarily the most dominant of rebounders. That helps out Florida State in the spot. So I like the points here with the Seminoles, and I do like that total under.
Going through the college basketball card with VSiN's own Greg Peterson here. One game we were discussing with Adam Burke earlier on the program was Southern and Cal Baptist going head-to-head, and we've seen the line move in favor of Cal Bap here. You and Adam both on the same side. You had Cal Baptist favored by 17.5.
Yes, I do not understand why Southern was such a small underdog. This was like 9.5 overnight. And for Southern, they had that double overtime game against Washington, which I think captured a lot of people's attention. But for Southern, if you take a look at their raw numbers, a lot of it has come against non-Division I teams. When you separate it out against only Division I opponents, Southern isn't really doing anything well. I wish I could put it any other way. And this Cal Baptist team is rock solid on the glass. Cal Baptist, top 20 team in terms of rebound percentage. Brady Henjai, Thomas Endong have been able to combine for 14 rebounds. Not necessarily prolific scorers. Like Cal Baptist, they only shoot about 31% from three. They're not necessarily a team that's going to light you up from the outside. So right now you're seeing that total at a 154.5. I do like the under, despite the fact that Southern has been playing quite fast. Southern is a top 25 team in terms of total possessions per game. Cal Baptist, a little bit slower outside the top 200 in terms of total possessions per game. I think the way that they are able to hit the glass, and Southern just not generating turnovers the way that they did in the past. Against C1 teams last year, Southern was a top 35 team in terms of turnovers forced on a per possession basis, well outside the top 200 this year. I think that helps out Cal Baptist, especially with having a 20-point per game score in Dominique Daniels. So one lay with Cal Baptist, and I'm in on that under.
All right, what about the Tritons of UC San Diego? Pretty interesting team. Obviously, a change in the staff, but it doesn't really matter. Clint Allard's done a pretty good job. But, Greg, as you well know, they played one team inside the Ken Pom top 100. There was Nevada, and they lost to them, but they're 7-1-1 against the spread. What do we do with the Tritons as they are road favorites this tonight?
I am willing to trust them here against Loyola Marymount. I set them as more of a 3.5-point favorite, so now that you're down to 1.5, as this was an opener more around 3 to 3.5. I'm willing to lay it here, but I do expect UC San Diego to have a little bit of a regression with their three-point shooting. They're shooting over 40% from three, and this Loyola Marymount team has been solid in terms of guarding the three-point line. Teams are shooting about 31.7% from three against them. Not necessarily like the most stout defense in the world, but it's pretty solid. And then for UC San Diego, what I think is so big for them is that they're not allowing opponents to grab a lot of second and third chances, and Loyola Marymount has been a banged-up team. Jan Vide, who began his career over at UCLA, when he's been out there on the floor, he's really been one of the top two scorers for Loyola Marymount. He's missed the last 5 or 6 games, and it's going to be interesting to see when/if he's able to get back out there on the floor, as this Loyola Marymount team without him has been a little bit more rudderless in terms of backcourt. I think that leads to a little bit more of a lower scoring game. Both of these teams outside the top 200 in terms of total possessions per game. So took a shot on the under, but I do think that the Tritons, with Loyola Marymount being a little bit banged up, find a way to get the job done on this tight line.
Greg, you're awesome. Good luck with the plays today. We appreciate your time.
Always appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, great breakdown. And again, remember the Coast to Coast Hoops podcast. Greg has plays on every single game, talks it through each and every day. And if you go to his X account at gunit_81, he always does the quote tweet that has the immediate link to the breakdowns of spreads and totals that his numbers project for each and every game. You can get him at VSiN.com. He's got the article up right now as well. But worth noting, on the X account makes it super easy to find each and every day. We got to step aside here on Money Moves right now. But when we come back, we're closing things out. Our best bets that we've added to the account this day, plus a 75-1 award shot JVT says is a red alert. We'll see what it is next.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So, as I open up my rundown today, I'm scrolling through. I see in the second hour of the show in bright red alert, exclamation point, exclamation point. I have a 75-1 awards long shot for Stormy B.
I do.
All right, the curiosity is piqued. What award? First off, what market are we looking at?
Did I tell you? You asked me, and I don't know if I told you. I did want to refuse.
Can you tell me now?
Coach of the year.
Okay. Okay, so what level coach are we looking at then at
Okay.
that point?
So I'll present it to you like this. You'll probably get it the second I start presenting this. You have a team that starts 0-3 and then proceeds to go 9-2 in their next 11 games, are the hottest team in the NFL. They've won 6 straight, blowing out opponents now, and have the best defense in the NFL. Could end up winning
Houston Texans.
12 games, win the division after starting there with an offense that is very middle of the pack, 16th to 18th in a bunch of different categories. Why would D'Amico Ryans not deserve all the credit in the world to get this done and be one of the best coaches in the NFL? And this isn't even so, and I think this is part of a broader conversation, which Mitch and I had on the podcast this week, which is out now, by the way. I just retweeted you at me, JVT at Mitch Moss Radio, if you want to go check out the latest episode. Audio and video versions are up this week. The coach of the year is such an open debate. There are so many guys I can make a case for to win this award. And the way I just presented it to you, D'Amico Ryans with this defense and the way that they have carried this albatross of an offense to 9-5, and potentially they could win 12 games, steal the AFC South from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and be a top seed in the AFC? And that's not worthy of looking at him as a coach of the year candidate?
I think that it is, but within the construct of what the award is and how many teams are coming back from being bad, I think that's hard because you still have the seed with the Houston Texans of being a playoff team each of the last 2 years and everything that CJ Stroud has the capability of being. So obviously he's dealt with injuries and all of that, but I feel like he's a long shot for a reason when you look at some of the other names here. But I appreciate the slow start, right? The 0-3 start, everything that this defense has done. He's a defensive guy, obviously. San Francisco has missed him at times. But Vrabel is your favorite for a reason. You look at Mike McDonald, Liam Cohen, and the big questions about is Trevor Lawrence fixed, because it's looking like it all of a sudden with the way that he's operating that offense. Ben Johnson and the turnaround for the Bears and actually starting to get I know that the majority of what has made their offense successful has been the run game, but figuring out how to get the most out of Caleb operating the offense. We talked a ton about Kyle Shanahan. I keep on seeing people saying Sean Payton's not getting enough respect for the win streak that the Broncos have been on. Like there are so many names that it's hard for me to then be like, okay, yeah, and D'Amico Ryans, when we already know this team has been good.
So this leads to my next question, and my answer is on the podcast. You can check it out. I asked Mitch this question. I'll ask you. If you were a voter and you were looking at Coach of the Year, would you tend to give more credit to a head coach whose speciality is carrying the team? So what I mean by that is, let's take Liam Cohen.
An offensive coach and the offense is better. Yeah.
Right. So like Liam Cohen, for example, the Jags have largely been carried by their defense. You said it. Last 3 games, Trevor Lawrence has played better. But this has not been an explosive offense all year long. It's starting to get better. But the defense has been very good, and Trevor Lawrence has been somewhat inconsistent, albeit a little bit better. You know, you mentioned Sean Payton in the coaching job. Sean Payton, not carried, but Bo Nix for a while was a very below-average quarterback, and the defense was doing a lot of work for that team. Would Sean Payton, the offensive guy who calls the plays, get credit for what a defense has done largely for his team, carrying them along in this winning streak, allowing them to win one-score games consistently because they're not letting up on that end? Would you, as a voter, look at those things, or would you just look at overall team success?
No, I think you look at those things.
Okay.
So to your point, maybe that's a little bit of a knock when it comes to Sean Payton's
Or if
argument.
you're just deciding between the two.
Yeah.
You know, if you're deciding between Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, would the tiebreaker be, Liam Cohen, he's doing a fine job, but Ben Johnson's running game and the way they've schemed that up has allowed Caleb Williams to come along a little bit slowly and put them in position to win some of these games.
I do think that would impact
you know what I'm
my
saying?
opinion. Sure, I understand the argument completely. The thing with me, though, is, and I know Vrabel isn't odds-on anymore, but, I mean, barring an absolute collapse reminiscent of the one we saw from them against the Bills, I find it pretty hard to believe that he wouldn't walk away with this award just because of how abysmal this team was last year and how walking into this season, everybody was talking about how, okay, well, at least you have Drake May, but does he have anybody around him? What's this defense going to look like? And I know a lot of the numbers are suspect, but the win-loss column doesn't lie either for this team. And if they win, one of the next 3 games, I still think he's going to be in position to be, just because they won, 3-4 games last year?
Sure.
The 4th game was the end of the regular season, a game that didn't matter for them.
The rebuttal is their market expectation was like 8.5 win total, shaded heavily the over. Like they were expected to be about a 9-win team. Is a 9-ish win team winning 12 games that much of an overstep in terms of expectation?
I get that's the prediction, but the what's the word I'm looking for? The metrics typically for this award have followed a pretty standard route, right?
Yeah.
And I would say for a lot of them, the preseason win total would probably be more towards 7.5 or less for that number, but 8.5 is not that far off of it.
Yeah.
And it's more like that step up in class from what you did last year to this year that matters more to voters, at least historically.
Okay. Just wanted to have the conversation.
And making the playoffs. There are certain thresholds, and maybe I can pull this together when we rediscuss Coach of the Year again this week. But there are certain things make the playoffs, win 10 games, have a 5+ win improvement, 6+ win improvement from the year prior, whatever it is. So we'll get to that. Last couple minutes here. I know you do have an addition. We talked about it already a little bit earlier, the NBA Cup. What do you got for us today? Officially official. What's in the account?
Devon Achane didn't get there yesterday. Longest run was for 15 yards. So over 18.5 is a loss there. We will move on to the next one, which is the NBA Cup today. Just one play tonight. Knicks -2.5 against the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay. I didn't have a best bet yesterday. I was just sweating out the Steelers, hoping and praying that they got the win for my season win total, which is in the balance, and they did. So we are 1 away from getting there. So prayers up for your girl that we can. I did add an early week teaser to the account. And
must like it if you're doing this early.
And speaking of the New England Patriots, they're getting 3 in Baltimore this week. Does that not feel like... I mean, in general, I think that the Patriots +3 was a lean for me, but taking that up from 3 to 9 feels like a pretty good look. And then I paired it with the Chicago Bears, who are in that rematch with the Green Bay Packers, where you and I both were on the Packers that game 2 weeks ago. And
barely got there.
You barely get there.
Get it?
You're You're sweating the hell out of that thing. It takes Caleb Williams to throw a late interception in the red zone for us to actually get that win and cover. But now with all of the Packers' injuries that are adding up the way that they are, I feel like getting 7.5 at home against a team that you almost came back against to either tie or win could be a good angle.
Okay, I like it. Makes sense.
I mean, Packers, the injuries are adding up, man.
They are.
I mean, Micah Parsons gone. We talked about the Christian Watson injury, which it looks like it's not going to be long-term, at least based on a lot of the reports. But how does that look for this week?
Tell you what.
Dropping like flies all over the board.
I know we know what this is shaping up to be honest with you, as we're watching this happen. The NFC has gone from a team, we've talked about the power of the NFC. This is shaping up pretty nicely for the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, seriously, they look like the most consistent and most dangerous team in the NFC. We know that they're the favorite, but I mean by maybe a gap between them and the NFC is developing that we should appreciate a little bit more.
What do you make of this Thursday night game? And obviously we're going to preview it at length on Thursday, but the market doesn't really seem to know what to do with this one. We keep seeing it toggle back and forth between who's going to be favored by 1.5. Lots of pick'ems on the board right now.
I mean, the Seahawks offense is bothering me.
It
was like an elite master of the. There was one of the NFL writers that talked to an anonymous executive that said that Sam Darnold had an elite mastery of this offense right now, or something along those lines.
Yeah, when you read that to me in the commercial break, I was like, "How is that the comment coming out of this past week?"
Well, your first response was actually, "If that's Phillip Rivers, I'm going to lose it."
He didn't tell me who the quarterback was that was being described, and he was just like, guess who he's talking about? And I was like, if it's Phillip Rivers, I'm going to lose it.
See? So you're a hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm just...
Phillip soon to throw for 254 yards, according to Paul Bovey Rivers.
I was laughing too because when we were talking about Paul a little bit earlier, it's like we're just going to get another tweet where he says the 49ers are ass. And then he followed up with it and said, no change.
Yeah, he's on one.
No change.
I just realized he sent me another one. Imagine if Rivers and Manning didn't swap in 04. Could be Eli. Man, this is going a little deep down the wormhole here.
That's a hell of a way to end the program, but that's a wrap for us today. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, same time, same place. Also, as we talk plenty of NFL, we also host the Countdown to Kickoff show and Live Bet Sunday each and every Sunday. If you want to come hang out with us ahead of the Week 16 slate. Coming up next, though, keep it locked right here after Money Moves. Follow the money with Mitch and Paul. Coming up, another Paul Stone, going to be joining, give out his best bets for college football. Stick around as well a little bit later. VSiN Primetime at 7 Eastern, cashing out with our guy Dustin Sweelson at 11. Have a great day. Good luck with your plays.